I was willing to talk to and connect to any spirit. I did not discriminate. And it got to the point where sometimes I would wake up and my arms would be floating or my legs would be floating. And then Monty would say, you cannot talk to everybody. You cannot just have an open door.
Welcome to the Curious Soul Podcast. I'm Cristina Malavenda.
And I'm Marty Go. We're two best friends exploring the deeper meaning of life
And the moments that connect us all. Hi, Marty.
Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl, I just think that we're living in this perpetual excitement.
I know. It feels to me like a whole new portion of my life that I'm so excited every single day. I'm like, is this going to dull down and I'm not going to be excited anymore? But it's, every single day I learn something new every time we do this. And I just feel like there's so much to learn. And the more that we have these conversations, the more I know that there's so much more that we don't know. And it just keeps going and going. So I love this.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
So today we're going to be talking about spirit guides.
Ooh.
And let me tell you what spirit guides are for those who don't know. Spirit guides are non-physical beings or presences that people believe they offer support, insight, and guidance throughout their lives. And they're often experienced through intuition, signs, dreams, synchronicities, or a deep sense of knowing. And in my case, I've seen them in regressions. And you can feel like there's a connection to something wiser, loving, and beyond what we can immediately see. So I'm so excited to be talking about this.
I know that both of us have our grandfathers as a spirit guide, which I think is so cool. And because my grandfather has been so special, and I didn't even know that he was my spirit guide until a year ago, but I know that I've always been getting messages and signs from him, and I can ask and I receive something. So how did you learn that your grandfather was your spirit guide? And do you ever feel like you're getting specific messages from him or guidance?
So, okay, this is kind of crazy. The first time I learned that my grandfather was a spirit guide was through a psychic reading, and I've had many, but he kept popping in multiple readings with different psychics. And I don't have a relationship with him because he died when I was very young and I never met him. And he was also extremely abusive to my father for various reasons, because he lost 3 sons when they went in a typhoon, and he became crazy and abusive, and he really, really hurt my father. So he would come to these readings and I was like, who the hell? Why is he here? I only hear horrible things about him. I can't believe he's here. And what I realized was that since he abused my father so much, and my father abused me, I have been able to use all of these horrible traumatic events and use them for the purpose of in my life. And so I've made several movies about women and abuse and how we can overcome our traumas and become our best selves by overcoming those traumas. And I feel like my movies have influenced millions of people because of what my grandfather has done to my father, which was then done unto me.
Wow.
And it's taken, decades to kind of realize that his purpose and all the things that he did to our family, but it was all it all came out positively. And at first, when I saw him in my readings, I was really upset and was like, why are you here? But now, decades later, I get it. And so this conversation today is going to be really meaningful in finding out who our spirit guides are, why they're connected to us, and all of this really cool information that I think is going to be so much fun for our listeners to learn.
While your grandfather was alive, he caused this damage that lasted 2 generations, and you've stopped it. But how do you think that now, as your spirit guide, that he's leading your life or guiding your life?
I think he continues to guide it in that my work in helping others who've experienced abuse is not over. And in life, he was really good in business. And in several readings, people are like, okay, you can ask him for that business advice, which I still feel like I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to open my receptors into being able to receive what that business advice is. But I think that's going to be a continuing journey forever. So I'm constantly, taking those lessons in, whether it be through the abuse and helping find projects to help others overcome that trauma, but then also now in my new journey of creating more strength in business and more knowledge.
That's beautiful, Marty. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking to Aja Daashuur. Aja Daashuur is incredible. She's a trance medium, spiritual teacher, and certified life coach with over a decade of experience helping people connect with their spirit guides in a clear, grounded, and deeply healing way. With training in trance mediumship and past life regression integration, including study at Arthur Findlay College in London, she has guided clients through profound spiritual and emotional transformation around the world. She is the founder of Spirit House Collective, an inclusive metaphysical community devoted to healing, education, and access, and recently released her Spirit Guide Portal Oracle deck. It's gorgeous. Her work has been featured in Vogue, The Cut, the LA Times, NPR, and more. Now, here's Aja. Hi, Aja. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And I'm so excited for you to meet Marty and for Marty to meet you, because I had such an incredible experience getting to hear you talk at your Oracle release event.
Oh, I'm so glad you were there.
Well, I actually have your deck here, and at
Oh,
some
yay!
point I'd love to pull a card. But to start off with, I would love to ask you, if somebody's curious about spirit guides, is there a moment or an experience that might make them stop and go, wow?
I think when we're talking about spirit guides or any type of connection with spirits in general, I think the first step towards that relationship is understanding that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
We've never been alone, that we have the ability to connect to other energies, other spirits. And when I say spirits, I don't mean spirits that have, been human before. I mean the spirit of a tree, the spirit of a home, the spirit of an item of clothing. All of it has energy. All of it has an essence. So I think learning to accept that, because once we accept that, then we open ourselves to so many opportunities, connections, conversations, because I think once you realize that, you can acknowledge that you have unlimited support around you should you choose to receive it. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
We're so connected to so many different things, not just people, but animals and nature.
And when you said home, Cristina has like a childhood home she's so connected to. So that's why I was like, yes, Cristina gets that.
Yeah. I mean, homes have so many. I mean, sometimes I'll get sad walking into a home or walking by a home. I'm like, what has this space been through? What has it witnessed? If these walls could talk, right? And same with my home. My home is a very magical place. Yes, because I'm magic, but also because the structure itself is magic. And, how are we in relationship with our home, with our loved ones, with our familiars, our pets, our backyards, and then, yes, how are we in relationship with spirit? How can we move through skepticism and doubt and move into a place of more confidence and faith?
Have you always felt guided?
No.
I like that. Like right into the mic.
Yeah. No. And you know what? I'm an absolute skeptic. I don't believe in something unless I've experienced it myself. So I just happen to have experienced speaking to the dead, but I think that there are skeptics in all of us. And I think there are times where it's really hard to have faith in ourselves and trust in ourselves. And that's what I believe spirituality and wellness is really all about. How am I continuing to strengthen the cord of connection of inner faith and trust so that when I get downloads, when my intuition kicks off, when I feel, there's a sign or a premonition or a conversation occurring with the other side, that I can trust it and I believe it. And also within that, that is an experience of continuous cycles. You'll feel very supremely connected one day. 3 months later, you might be thinking, it's all a lie. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here anymore. And then just, you have to trust that that cycle will start again.
Can we start from the beginning? In that, when did you start speaking to the dead? Were you speaking to your spirit guides right away? Like, how did this whole thing happen?
No, not at all. Like, I was having visitations when I was about 4 or 5. Um, and those visitations and experiences were really terrifying for me. I didn't know what was going on and I didn't want to have them. So, after several years of that occurring, I don't know if I shut it down or if my guides step things back. I don't really know. Only recently have I even brought that question up for myself, and I just haven't spoken to them about it. It wasn't until I was living in New York again. I had been living in California and moved to New York in my early 30s that I got to a place just of really dark side of the moon chapter where I just was working on healing myself, which of course is a lifelong journey, but I was trying to figure out, how can I make myself happier? How can I understand, what's really going on with me? And through those practices of meditation and real, reading and following the synchronicities, did memories from my childhood come back? And I kind of followed them like breadcrumbs until I became obsessed with opening that door again, which is, as we all know, just another form of awakening. And that awakening brought me to where I am now. So even though it was rough, it was worth it.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of what happened with me, which was having a really dark time in my life. And instead of saying, screw it, I leaned in so hard. And it led me down this path of curiosity and trying to just open up this opportunity for not just me, but hopefully other people to see that there's so much guidance available and so much opportunity for us to have connections that are very deep, whether it's with people or nature or whatever that might be.
Same thing for me. Mine was a breakdown, and then it forced me to look inwards and start meditating because I was like on the edge. So I think for everyone, it's like, unfortunately, sometimes we have to go through the worst thing possible to then look inwards and figure out, why are we really here?
But I want to give us all credit though, because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people go through something really horrible, or they're really unhappy, or they feel stuck, and they keep walking in that circle. Like, it takes a fortitude of spirit to say, no, I need to understand and I need to find a way out. And I can't expect that to be handed to me. I need to create it for myself. So how am I going to do that?
1000%.
It's interesting that you say breadcrumbs because I use puzzle pieces. Like for me, it's like this puzzle, and I'm always, because I love puzzles and I love games. So I'm always like trying to figure out, where does this go and how does this work and what does it mean? And I think for me, it's just a lot of fun. I'm just living this game and curiosity and all that stuff every day,
I feel like that's the theme.
Cristina,
Have fun.
I love that you're, first of all, yes, absolutely. It can be fun. And I think, when we're going through those dark places, even in the darkest of dark, there are those moments where you're like, huh, that was kind of cool. Or what does that mean? Or where did that come from? Like, I think if we can, even if it's just like 5 minutes of a really crappy day, you're like, but those 5 minutes were really cool. And then the hope is that those 5 minutes expand more and more to 10 minutes to an hour to maybe a whole afternoon. And then finally you're like, I've had a really good week.
Yes. Yes. And I love also what you said about, like, you may be feeling so aligned at one point and then not so aligned, but just knowing that it's going to come back, like those moments of feeling like things are working out, or that it's good. And it could be just subtle and natural and not big. And that it's kind of this roller coaster. And that's kind of what I'm going through now too, is that I felt that I was so aligned and I'm still having so much fun and I'm so excited, but it's like, it's kind of that it just oscillates. And I just have to remember that it's okay, that it's going to come back. And even those little moments, knowing that I have those little moments that I can still connect with. So
well, I think people get into a spiritual practice, wellness practice, routine, which is, of course, the foundation. Discipline is the foundation for everything that matters. But,
Yeah.
Discipline isn't, it's not something that's fixed, right? Like, you're going to have
Yeah.
moments where you feel very disciplined and committed, and other moments where it feels impossible. But we can't be perfectionists about it.
No.
As long as we show up in some way every day towards the work, and we can go to bed and say, no, I worked towards that, I moved towards that, then we're good.
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
we can get really fixated on it has to look this way, or it has to feel this way, or I need my meditation room to be completely finished, or it has to be at this time specifically, or, and that's just
Yeah,
great and all, but that's, you have to, we need to be able to do those things at any time, at any place, because when
totally.
the shit hits the fan, it's not going to be the perfect time of day. It's not the sun isn't going to be shining. It's going to
Yeah.
be hard to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I think sometimes we try so hard to be like, okay, I got to get back to the happiness. I got to meditate. I got to be perfect again. And sometimes you just got to let it go and like stop thinking about trying to be perfect and happy all the time. And sometimes, yeah, exactly. Shit hits the fan and you just have to let it hit and just
Splatter
take
everywhere.
a rest. Yeah, just let it splatter everywhere because we can't control it at this moment. Just let it go and chill out. And we don't have to be perfect at all times and perfectly happy.
I think it's great that you said that too, because I think when we're working towards when we are stuck in that framework, what we're really talking about is control. And
Yeah.
I don't think wellness and spirituality have anything to do with control. I think discipline
Yeah.
is really about dedication and commitment and desire. And all of us want to be in control, but I think we
Yeah.
all are working towards understanding that we have very little.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surrender is like one of the hardest concepts to like really grasp. It's like,
Sur-
what?
Surrender and patience.
Before we keep going, if this conversation is resonating with you, please take a second to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps us reach more curious souls, and honestly, this is exactly why we wanted to create this show.
Yes. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, send it to them. They might be meant to hear this too.
I have a very special spirit guide that has always been communicating with me since I was 12.
Ah.
And I know I've been getting messages and signs since before that, but there's a reason why I say 12, and I can tell you a little bit more about that. But I'm curious, when did you learn about spirit guides, and when did you learn about who your spirit guide or guides were? It's like, what was that journey for you?
First part is I was working a 9-to-5 job on this journey in Brooklyn. I was on the computer and I saw that there was a museum that had hosted a shaman who had come in. And when I say shaman, I mean from her lineage for generations. And she had come and done a spirit guide ceremony. And I had never even heard about spirit guides. And I tracked her down, and she lives in New Jersey. And I asked her if I could come and sit for ceremony to find out who my spirit guides were. And again, no idea what I was doing. She told me where she lived because it was going to be at her home. Got on a train on my birthday and a bus. I thought this will be maybe an hour and a half. Also was thinking, is this safe? Where am I
I
going?
know. I was just thinking the same thing.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
Like,
Ridiculous
yeah,
amount of trust and faith. I mean, we could not be
yes.
having this podcast right
Oh,
now.
yeah. Oh, I used to live in Brooklyn and take that train, so I've
Oh
done
yeah.
dangerous things. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Going to her home, this was ceremony. She was serious. She started asking me if I even know what a shaman is. No, she was okay. She went into the history of it, asked if I knew what spirit guides were. I said no.
Were you alone, by the way? Or is this a group?
Absolutely alone.
Okay,
Absolutely
gotcha. Okay.
alone. Didn't even tell my partner at the time the address of where everyone listening to this, do not do this.
Yeah.
But she dressed in her ceremonial robes, and I completely blacked out for about 3 or 4 hours.
No.
absolutely. It was a life-changing event for me. She talked to me about a little bit about some of who my guides were, and she did a ceremonial energetic clearing on me.
Wait, how
And
did you black out, first of all? Did she
I
put you
left
down
my
like
body.
hypnosis?
I left my body like
Like
during
during the ritual?
during the ritual. I totally left my body. I was looking at myself outside of my body. It was an absolutely life-changing event for me. I left that home changed. First of all, I felt energetically cleared of, I don't even know what. I didn't understand. I didn't have the vocabulary for what had happened. And after that, she and I have been in contact several times. Premonitions started coming to me more. It definitely opened up my channel much more.
Do you remember details when you left your body?
No,
Literally blacked out. It was okay.
no.
So when you came
No,
back,
I
that's
remember
when you
coming
started
back
things
into my
changing.
body. Yeah, I
Got
remember
it.
back
Okay.
into my body. That was when I started speaking into specific animal guides, during meditation. But again,
Oh my
I
God.
was very early on in my journey. I didn't really, I had no idea what I was doing. So that was the first part of me. I knew I wanted to connect to spirit guides. I didn't know what that was. I knew I was being led to this shaman, and she opened up almost like the next door for me. I started having more, my meditation started becoming much stronger. I started receiving prophetic dreams. Synchronicities started happening much more. I was still living in New York at that time. Cut to a year later, I'm in Los Angeles again with a very, very, very dedicated meditation practice. And I'm really working on clairaudience. My clairvoyance, clear seeing was happening. But because I'm a skeptic, I wanted to, hear them. I wanted to hear spirits outside of my body. So I wanted to hear them. And I also wanted to utilize automatic writing, which is the act of allowing a spirit to move your hand and write. Or a lot of people, free writing, you can move your hand and just start writing whatever comes to you, stream of consciousness. But I didn't want that. I wanted specifically to feel an energy move my hand and write. So I was doing both of those two things. So at some point, and I became obsessed. At some point during that process, I heard one of my guides say, "Give me some advice." I heard their voice outside of my body, and it was in this house. I was upstairs in bed pulling cards. I ran down and started automatic writing. I'd been trying every day, but nothing had been happening. And as soon as I put the pen to the paper, they started moving my hand. So
Wow.
from
Oh my
that
God.
moment on, I was able to hear and then also allow them
Wow.
to respond each day. And I have notebooks and notebooks full of writing from them, what their names are, why they're speaking to me. When I had more time early on, I would ask them, where are you from? How do we know each other? I want to Google that, again, because I was very not respectful. I definitely wanted to be able to Google things. I wanted proof, proof of life,
Yeah.
on the other side. I would never do that now. I would test them, I would say, is this going to happen on this date or not? They were very patient with me.
How long were you asking for till you started getting, those very strong messages?
I think with the automatic, and look, some people start automatic writing, they can do it right away, and that's great.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
had a lot of I was like, I don't understand. Why can't I do it? I would say for me, God, time at that time was I mean, time is always bizarre, but I would say
Hmm.
probably 2 to 3 months of every
Oh,
day.
wow.
Me, I would
That's
say,
patient. Yeah.
"Hi, hello, is anyone there?" And then nothing would
Yeah.
happen, and then I just wrote a smiley face, "Okay, I'll come back tomorrow." And then, like, maybe they would move, like, no words, but they would move, the pen. I'm like, "Okay,
Hmm.
okay." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Alright." Because again, it does take dedication,
Hmm.
And then once
Yeah.
they did start writing something, they would say to me every day, and I've said this on a lot of podcasts and interviews, they would say, "Are you committed?" And I would say, "Yes, I think I'm committed." And what I realized later on is what they were really asking, like, is me to answer the question of, "Are you committed to this being your life's purpose?"
Wow.
And I am.
Wow. And can you tell us like who those voices were? How many were they? Did you start seeing them visually? Like who are they?
Well, I have several guides, but the two guides I speak to the most, and the one guide that I speak to the most, his name is Monty, and then the guide who I speak to the most, next to him is Charles. There was a time where I was fixated because when I was talking to the dead or seeing the dead as a kid, it was like a physical manifestation in front of my face.
Wow.
So when I started speaking to them again, I was asking them, I was like, I want to see you in front of me again versus just here. And they said that takes a lot of energy to
Mm.
see a physical representation. Would you rather see the physical representation or would you rather the conversation? Would you rather know,
Interesting.
like, if I'm wearing plaid or would you rather receive guidance? And I was like, all right, okay, I would rather,
Fair play.
yeah,
I want to see your
Fair.
outfit, honestly.
yeah, yeah, outfit. And they would show me certain things. They would, they would show me like the two of them sitting in a kitchen, and I'd be and sitting at the table with them, and they would show me things for sure, but I didn't need to see. Or, at this time I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I would see floating orbs, and the next morning they'd say, "Oh my
Wow.
gosh, you saw us last night." And I'm like, "Oh, okay,
That was
cool,
you.
yeah."
Yeah. Are they connected to you from past lives, or how do you know?
Yes, I mean, Monty is part of my ancestral line. I don't know exactly where. I know that the two of us were married at some point, and I think if I can remember correctly, I think I died, or he's saying no right now. The person I was died in a fire. He died later on. But again, a lot of these details that I really fixated on in the beginning, I mean, we've done so much work together. They're not as interested in talking about their past. They're more
Mm-hmm.
focused on what are you doing right now? What's happening? And where are
Mm-hmm.
we going? What are we understanding? And how can we be of service to the community?
You had mentioned that your spirit guides have personalities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think any spirit that has lived on this planet as a human has personalities, has a personality. The longer it's been that they've been a human, obviously that can fade. Most of the spirits that I speak to have been human. When I speak to a spirit that maybe has not been human, we can call it angel energy. It's very different.
For somebody who has never heard about spirit guides or doesn't really know how to interact with them, what would you say to somebody like that who might be interested in receiving guidance?
Just start talking to yourself. You know, like just start. You wake up in the day. What are your intentions for the day? What do you want to see? What do you want to experience? What do you want to feel? And say it out loud. When you're in the car, when you're in the shower. 'Cause we're just working on acknowledgement. Even if it doesn't matter if you feel like you're talking to yourself. What's wrong with talking to yourself? Like energetically saying out loud what it is you wish to see in the world and experience. Because regardless, whether you're talking to spirit guides or not, you're going to be noticing things more. You're going to be more cognizant of the world around you. You're going to be
Yes.
feeling the synchronicities, understanding that things are interconnected. And that's a first step towards that larger connection with the other side.
Yes. See, I've always felt like I've been being guided. Like I remember being 10 and thinking, "Oh, look." And I've always called them coincidences, but they're not coincidences. It's synchronicities. But I've always recognized that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know about spirit guides until I was in my late 20s. When I was like, "Why do I keep seeing 1111?" And the psychic was like, "It's your spirit guides." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it wasn't until a year ago that a psychic asked me if my grandfather or my dad had died, and I started laughing because my grandfather had died when I was 12 and he'd always been sending me messages. And so I was like, of course he's coming through. And then she goes, "He's sending you messages and you're not paying attention." I was like, "I'm totally paying attention." And at the end, she said, "He wants you to figure out what it means."
Mm.
But the thing that was really beautiful about that, about her saying that, was one, I knew he was always there. I just didn't know he had taken on that role of being my spirit guide. And then two, he sent me on this path that I'm on now, which is this path of curiosity, because I'd always, my whole life, all these things would happen, whether they were dreams or repetitive signs and symbols and all these things I knew meant this language with the universe. I just was always like, what does it mean? What does it mean? And when she said that, I was like, yeah, I can get down with that. And so I didn't know how I was going to do that for some time. But then I had this idea for my book, and that was putting everything down on paper and trying to look at all these experiences that I've had in my life. And then it was starting this podcast with Marty and having these conversations. And it has been so incredible to be able to talk to people like you, Aja, and just hear about your experience and learn about these things. And because I think it allows people this opportunity to be more connected and also just to find this feeling of support and guidance. And there's this opportunity when we actually like lean into this idea of our spirit guides.
When we have like several spirit guides, are they helping with different like facets of our mission in life? Or yeah, could you explain that?
I mean, again, I'm just giving my opinion. Different mystics have different ideas.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that. Like, I would say for the past 7 or 8 years, Monty has been the predominant voice in my ear, like kind of relentless. Like his personality and energy is like, go, 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 go. You should do this, do that, you know? And over the last 2 years, I'm like, I'm tired. You know, I gotta, you gotta step back. And more recently, Charles has been coming in more, who's much calmer and like, it's okay. We don't have to do it all at once. So there are different stages in our lives where somewhere we need more energy, or we need to be
Yeah.
hermiting more, or we need more inspiration, or we need to grieve more. And, you know, while all our guides are there, certain ones will step forward and say, you know, let me guide you the most in this for this particular time.
And do all of them stay for your whole life, or do they switch out, or is there one that like stays? I don't know the rules of this. I'm just curious.
Oh, I mean, I definitely have had guides come and go. I mean, spirit guides is a specific job. I mean, there are people that kind of, you know, that are related to us that have passed in our lifetimes and can guide us for a certain amount of time, but it's very different than a spirit guide. Like that is like before we're incarnated, we come to an agreement. We discuss what we are hoping that our soul is moving through, and goals we're achieving, lessons we're learning, and you know, and then we work together. And then again, other spirits can come in and guide us and have wisdom and insight. But I've noticed those spirits definitely are popping in and out more. You know, like when, you know, my parents are obviously they're older, you know, and I know when they pass, they will absolutely be there as guides, but spirit guide is it's like very, very different. You know, I mean, I'm definitely going to tell my parents hang out for the whole time, and maybe dad, like chill a little bit. Let's hang out. Let's do everything together. But also remembering that these spirits have personalities. We're not always going to agree with the spirits of those who have passed in our life, right? Like, again, when my dad passes and he's telling me something, I can guarantee I'm going to be like, no, I'm not doing that, you know? But my spirit guides, you know, they see the whole blueprint. You know, they see all the past, all the future, like, you know, and the present. So there have definitely been times where my guides have said, I don't think that's a good idea, or maybe you should do this. And I haven't done it, or I have done something. And later on, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, because I have to move through my own lessons as well. You know, we have autonomy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned purpose, and I think that my grandfather sent me on this journey because it's leading me like down this path of my purpose. Do you think our spirit guides try to guide us down that path of living our purpose?
I think there is a difference between a calling and someone's purpose. So a calling, you know, like I'm called to do this work. Like if someone my husband did, you know, before we got married, he said, I need you to stop doing this. And I remember standing by this door when he was telling me, I was on my way to work. He's like, I need you, because it was really wild in this house for a while because I didn't know what I was doing. And he was having like nightmares and waking up and like I'd be floating a few inches. Like it was wild. It was like,
for me, you gotta finish that story. What are you saying?
I'll come back to that for sure.
Okay.
But he was, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have enough, you know, teachers. I was winging it a lot. And that is terrifying to be next to. But he was like, I need you to stop doing this. And And I also remember, we all tell little white lies like, hey, have you left the house yet? I'm like, yeah, I'm in the car, when I'm grabbing my stuff. And I literally got to the point with my guides that I couldn't tell white lies. Someone's always listening. So that
God.
realization too. So he's saying, I need you to stop doing this. And I was like, I literally can't lie right now. I was like, I can't.
Oh my God.
I won't. And I want you to do what you need to do that's best for you. I totally understand why you're asking me that, but I can't. So I knew that this was my calling, right? So when we talk about someone's purpose, right? Which of course we could say, yeah, your calling is purpose. But what I've heard from so many spirit guides is that, because that is the number one question I get asked in sessions, like, what is my purpose? That and, where's my soulmate? Like those are the two. And guides, when someone asks that, there's this like collective, like, not in disappointment, not in disappointment, but because we have an infinite amount of purposes in our lifetime. Like one of my purposes today is to talk to the two of you. Another purpose that I'm sure I'll have today is walking my dogs and looking, again, like connecting with nature. We have so many purposes in this life. There is no one. And when we fixate on one, we miss all the others.
I see.
I love that.
So they can always be changing. So then are you saying for calling, can your callings be changing as well then too?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think, when I think about what I believe my calling to be, I think it has shifted and changed as I've gained more knowledge, experience. But I think the underlining theme is the same, which is my purpose is to now talk to the two of you, but my calling is to continue to connect and listen, observe, and to guide.
Before we keep going, if this conversation is resonating with you, please take a second to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps us reach more curious souls, and honestly, this is exactly why we wanted to create this show.
Yes, and if someone came to mind while you were listening, send it to them. They might be meant to hear this too. Can we please go back to you floating? Because that's, please, that's amazing.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I was very open. I was working like a regular job while also building up my practice. And I was willing to talk to and connect to any spirit. I did not discriminate. I was like, anything that wants to come through. I did not know how to protect myself. I did not know how to protect my energy. I didn't have community to talk to about any of the things that I was experiencing. And I wasn't sharing them with my partner because my partner thought I was crazy. And
oh my God.
It got to the point where, like, sometimes I would wake up and my arms would be floating or my legs would be floating. I would feel like someone tug on my leg or, turn my head. So it got to the point where every night I would wrap myself in a blanket like a burrito because I didn't want any spirit. And keep in mind, my partner at the time was watching me do this.
Oh
and
my
he's
God.
Like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just like, I just really like being tucked in.
Cocooned,
cocooned, because I didn't want to tell him, listen, but then he would wake up and he would be like, Aja, and then I would feel my body come back down and he'd be like, I can't do this.
Wow.
And then my guide, Monty would say, or I'd be like at work on my lunch break, doing some automatic writing, and I would hear, voices like asking for help, like, help me. And I'd be writing like, who are you? And I'd be calling my mom. I'm like, is everyone okay? And like freaking my parents out. And then Monty would say, you cannot talk to everybody. You cannot just have an open door. We need to be specific. And I was like, oh, of course. That makes sense. Even when I started, seeing clients in the beginning, Monty it's like telephone, so Monty would listen to a spirit and then he would tell me what that spirit said. Like there was quite a long period of time where there was a middleman, so to speak. And that was to help protect me and to help me feel safe, because there was also a time where I thought I was going crazy and I might need to go to the hospital. I didn't really feel that I was in this world. Like I felt like I was constantly hovering a few inches. I mean, there were times where I was like, I should not be driving. I should not, like, I was walking. I was like, I don't even feel like there's, because I was ascending so quickly and
Wow.
loving it, but also I had to engage in this world
Yeah.
and meet it. And I wasn't. I was out here too much. So I had to learn to find the balance.
Yeah. And how did you find that balance?
First thing is I called a medium that I knew. I had had a reading with her when I first moved back to LA. Dear friend, she was ended up being in part of my wedding party. But I had an incredible reading with her, and then we became friends. And I called her. I was like, I'm losing my mind. Like I don't know what to do. And she said, you need to go out and you need to get yourself some black tourmaline. And I was like, listen, I'm not a crystal girl. Like and she's like, how desperate are you? I'm like, I'm fucking desperate. She's like, go get yourself some black tourmaline. So I went out immediately, bought some black tourmaline. And as soon as I touched it, I came back down and I was like,
Wow.
whoa, this is because
Interesting.
I am an
Wow.
eye roller. Again, I'm a skeptic. Like I'm not going to
Yeah.
believe something unless it happens to me. So
Yeah.
I started, sleeping with black tourmaline under my pillow. It's in my car. It's in my purse. Like it immediately grounds and protects. So that was the first thing that I did. Then I set up energetic protections, and those type of things take a while to like kind of root. The first
Yeah.
one was no visitors in my bedroom,
Good.
That doesn't mean I'm not still getting, visitations from time to time. It's like something slipped through the cracks. And then I had a protection practice and grounding practice when I would go to bed at night to help ground me, root me, and then
Yeah.
protect me. So there were several things along the way that I collected that helped me move between worlds in a way that feels natural. Also, whenever I go out, like, I mean, just tons of voices all the time, like just imagining a big mute button that I press. I'm like, I'm not hearing
good.
other than what people wish for me to hear.
Yeah. How did
Yeah.
you get to the place of working with your husband on this amazing, incredible spirit guide portal oracle deck? Because I'm going to take the cards out at
Yeah.
some point just to show how gorgeous they are, because he's an artist.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about that, like just getting to that place with him and then what the process was of actually creating them?
Well, it's our second deck. So the first deck, so I was hounding him for a long time with our first deck because I've always wanted to have a collaborator, somebody that I feel like I could create something with. So we did the first deck, which was wonderful. And then he asked if anyone ever wanted to see what their spirit guides looked like. I was like, yeah, all the time. And he's like, but he's like, but do you think anyone would ever want, a portrait? And I was like, yeah, I do.
How did he get to that place of now, like, just
Oh,
about spirit guides?
well, I mean, honestly, there was a lot of ups and downs. Like there was a period where he was more open. First of all, he realized that I wasn't. This was
Gonna
the
stop.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that puppy.
And then he was seeing things that were happening, so he couldn't,
Really?
pretend like that things weren't occurring. I mean, whether
Yeah.
he's just me channeling or things happening in the night, there was evidence,
Yeah.
And then, it got to the point where he would ask his guides. He'd say, can you ask my guides about this or that? And which I don't do very often because I don't want to muddy the waters. And I feel like that can be, then it becomes a job. Like I'm your partner. We're here to discuss things. We're here to grow
Yeah.
together, not here to be a soothsayer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, so through that, and then again, it's like any relationship, there's trust built around it. And he's very, very curious about it. Like he had his
Yeah.
own experience witnessing my experiences. So then we got to the point with, after the first deck, which he really enjoyed that process, to asking me about spirit guide portraits, and he worked on mine. He worked on Monty, which was really amazing. And then
Oh.
I just opened it up to the community, and through that, because went crazy over the next 2 years, he painted about 100 portraits. So I would channel certain spirits that wanted to share a memory and experience why they are working in collaboration with their charges, and then would work with Justin to create as he painted the portraits.
That's beautiful.
It's been incredible. So then 5 years, I think 5 years from then to publishing, I think it's been out officially like a month and a half now. That deck is so important to me for multiple reasons, but the main reason is because I do believe in the therapeutic advantages of working with spirits. I believe if we're connecting to these energies, that we can activate deep healing and transformation, and we
Mm-hmm.
can be utilizing the deck as a conversation with the other side in a much more powerful way than and again, I have a lot of decks and I love them, but like this is really a conversation. How are we getting to know these archetypes of spirits that are universal? What are they asking us to look at within ourselves?
This is such a special deck to me because I know your story, not just because they're stunningly gorgeous, but also your story is so amazing and how you worked with Justin. You had to communicate with him. You had to also get the permission from the spirit guides, right? Like
Yes.
how did that work, and how did you work with him to get these beautiful portraits?
Not every spirit guide wanted to be part of the deck. So there's
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah, I mean, because it's like not every spirit guide wants to get another job. Not every
Yeah.
person, you know what I mean? But a lot of spirits like, no, I want to share my story. I want to share what I think could be helpful. Allow me to enter these other worlds, others' homes, others, hands, and to be of service in these various ways.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. So, like, when you're using the deck, they're actually speaking through those
Connecting to
cards.
the
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
You're
Okay.
connecting to them, right?
Wow.
Which
Okay.
also is just incredible to feel like the energy of all of these hands and souls, working together again to be of service, right? Because in each of the spirits has specific. I mean, it's I am, I offer, I ask. So they're sharing a bit about who they are, their personality, their a memory, what they wish to offer you upon reflecting, and questions they want you to ask yourself, like, and really like write things down and then to continue to activate that conversation. Again, it's a therapeutic tool for self, counseling. Also, not all of us unfortunately have access to licensed therapists or other modes of mental wellness modality. But this is one of those tools that we all can access and that can open ourselves up to untold opportunities and realizations.
Yes.
Wow.
So a spirit guide would say that they would do it, and then they would tell you what they looked like, or would you see them in your mind, and how would you communicate that to Justin?
They would tell me, I would write down with like time period, what color hair, what gender. And not all of them were human. Like, there were angels and galactic beings that came through, but this deck is focused on human, and I'm hoping I can focus on galactic beings and angels in other
Yes,
decks. But
that'd be
they would
amazing.
tell me what they look like. Then I'd start like researching photos. They'd say that the eyes look, pretty close there, the chin there. Then I would send all of this information to Justin. Then he would start to draw and then paint. Then he would show it to me. Then I'd have to edit based on what he was very patient, because a lot of times he's like, why? Why can't this work? I'm like, because you're telling me that's not what they look like, and we got to change it or shift it. Or sometimes, I would say, the eyes need to look a little bit more, compassionate. He's like, great note, like, it was such an arduous process, but also taught us a lot about each other and how to work with each other. It was just really rewarding also because, again, in sessions or when I'm channeling, we're constantly asking, like, I want, tell me. And this was an opportunity to say, who are you? And,
Oh,
memory that you want me
that's
to, share with others. And what do you want to offer this? Again, it's so like, it becomes more reciprocal, like, who are
Yeah.
you? Like, not just can you give me, tell me, guide me.
that's
Christina, can you
beautiful, Asia.
show a card?
Yeah,
I would love
actually,
to see what it looks
would
like.
it be okay if I pull one, Asia? You guys actually signed it for me, so
Yay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually, so this is beautiful. I think like Marty, you were even saying how like the sides are just this like beautiful, shiny
It's
metallic
gorgeous.
blue,
I love that sound.
right? And you also taught me to pick a card with my dominant hand.
Yes. The Peacemaker. I've been getting that so much.
We need that this time, definitely.
Isn't that gorgeous though?
That's gorgeous.
So we pulled the Peacemaker.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Asia, is there anything you want to say about the Peacemaker?
Yeah, I mean, the Peacemaker has been coming up um, a lot in sessions I've had in classes. So the Peacemaker, one, I mean, obviously there's multiple wars happening right
Mhm.
now. It's really asking us to look at the whys behind that. What are the reasons connected to the disconnection? And but when we get down to ourselves, like how are we making peace with ourselves? What pieces of ourselves have we felt separate from or have turned our back on? That we don't need to do that anymore. Like, how are we bringing things in? How are we, again, being compassionate with who we are? What are the questions we're asking ourselves so that we can find peace within ourselves and our journey so that we don't feel so separated from various aspects of our soul?
Yes, it's all
Yeah.
about connection. It's finding that connection.
So for
Mhm.
someone who doesn't feel like I don't really hear like any like I get signs and symbols, but like someone who's maybe not connected as well as you are, obviously, but being able to get that deck and pull cards for yourself and get those messages, how would you like? What kind of advice would you give someone to get more in touch with receiving those using those cards?
I mean, everyone's connected. Everyone's connected. So you don't have to be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient.
Mhm.
First of all of us have access to certain levels of any of those layers to begin with. But take away the pressure of that. You're just
Okay.
activating your conscious. Pull a card. What does it mean to you? What comes up for you? Allow that information to come through without judgment, without expectation. Utilize the deck or any deck as a tool to understanding, activating your subconscious so that information can move to your conscious mind and that you can always understand yourself a little bit better. And again, you might be like, I don't know what this card means. Leave the card up for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Put it on your fridge, put it on your bathroom mirror. Something's going to come through, whether it's Peacemaker or Queen or, magical child. Something is going to begin to percolate because you're a human being with a brain.
Yeah.
Things are going to
So
happen.
be open.
That's the
Got
best
it.
thing. That's the best advice for anybody around any of this work.
Amazing.
They're just so so
That's
detailed
beautiful.
and so stunning.
That's my favorite.
Is
Maybe
it?
that's why I picked it.
It's my favorite one because it's my favorite portrait that he did. Like, he's always going to look at the portraits and see the flaws and wish that he had more time. But I know that one specifically, he felt like he had time when we did this for 5 years. But that one, he, while also working on other multiple projects, I just know that the Sage is one that he was able to give all of the time he would have wanted to. And also, I love that spirit. She is constantly asking you, what do you want? What do you want? What do you really want? Like her spirit, her story, her husband would work very, very hard all day and he would come back and they would sit, and have a meal and she would say, what do you want? And he wouldn't know, or he wouldn't be able to express it, or he wouldn't feel like he could express it. And the next night she would ask the same thing, what do you want? Like every day, like she just wants you to understand and know what you really want out of this life. And sometimes you don't know. And then the question is, what can we do to find out?
Wow.
What I love about what you just said is that my question before was like almost looking from without me, outside of myself. But the true answers are always going to be within ourselves. And we're the only people who can tell us what those answers are.
Yeah.
Because getting orders from someone else isn't going to make me happy. The happiness is inside of ourselves. Look within, and question that. So that's really important to remember. Thank you for saying that.
But some people want someone else to dictate. That's why we have cults, right? That's why we have, gurus, right? They want someone to, that's why we have organized religion. Like, give me the rules of engagement so that I can acquiesce and follow. But the road of spirituality is not about that. The role of spirituality is to question, to
Yeah.
ask the whys. No one knows ourselves better than us, right?
Yeah.
Even sometimes I'm in a session with a client and I'll say, "Oh, I'm seeing X, Y, and Z." I'm because all I'm doing is interpreting, and my interpretation is this, and the person will say, "No, actually, I don't think so. I think it's." I'm like, "Great, I'm glad you know because you know yourself more than I do." Right. And
Yep.
how are we trusting that and building from that place?
Absolutely.
At the Oracle release event, we did a meditation where we access our different senses. And I thought that was really fascinating because I'd never really done it like that before. And you started with visualization, we had auditory, we had smell, we had touch. And I realized that visualization was my strongest.
Mm.
Touch was like so bizarre because I feel like I could live in water. And like just the trying to feel like I was swimming in water, like it felt like a glove on me. It was the sensation was so bizarre, but it was such an important lesson because I realized that there's all these different ways, and you always hear it, but it's like every little piece, right? It's the puzzle pieces, it's the breadcrumbs that help build on top and on top, and you have to sometimes keep hearing the same thing over and over again, or have a different experience that where all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It really made me realize that, okay, yes, a visualization. And as I move forward after that, but still like, I may still hear something sometimes. I realized that I've had a knowing, but I've always just like assumed like, okay, that's what I've always felt, but I didn't realize it was a knowing. Where I'll say like the dreams and the symbols and the signs are my superpower, but I've started to realize that all these things can come in all these different ways. But even though we do have a strength and maybe, one or two, we can have the language of all these different things. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can work like dominoes. You have one, like your seeing could be the strongest. And then the more you work on that, then hearing can come in. And, but again, I think people get tripped up on comparison. Why am I not seeing flying unicorns and the person next to me? But you might be experiencing claircognizance, which is just the knowledge that will pop in, like, whatever, my partner's cheating on me, or I need to quit my job, and just know it. And then you have to trust it. But again, all of it can be built on just depending on how much commitment you want and energy you want to move into it.
So what do you think the impact has been with your work on the people that have either been your clients or just, like you've had such impact on me and I've only met you like 3 times. So what do you think has been the biggest impact?
I think it goes back to what I said in the beginning, which is the realization that they're not alone and that there are energies around them that they can have conversations with, and that they're not weird for believing that. No one's going to I'm not going to shun them for that or make them feel as though they're less than. I would hope that the work that what I've seen it do is really be super connective, whether it's with practitioners who now are going to be lifelong friends or with clients who I've been seeing for almost a decade who feel so much stronger within themselves and have moved through various points in their life. It's the acknowledgement that we're not alone, that we're all connected, that we can receive in so many different ways, and that we can be enactors of transformation within our lifetime. We don't have to wait for something to begin. We can begin it ourselves.
Love that.
I think that answers the next question, which is that what would you have our listeners take away from this episode?
And also be curious. This stuff is wild. This stuff is wild. You don't have to believe in everything. You don't have to believe in aliens. You don't have to believe in walk-ins. Just feel it. You don't have to believe in the Akashic records. Just feel into what you're curious about because it's just cool. It's just cool stuff, And also if it helps you in some small way, if it leads you to a new friend or a new good read or a meditation that allows you to, relax and feel less anxious, win.
Yes. Whatever feels right for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. You are incredible. And I'm just so grateful to have had this opportunity to talk to you today and learn more from you.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing. Thank you, Aja.
Oh, it's been an honor. Thank you for having me. And it's always a good time talking about all the cool, weird, witchy, amazing otherworldly stuff.
Please like and share.
And you can subscribe at thecurioussoulpodcast.com for all things curious.